The endless ribbon of blacktop stretched before me, swallowed by the night. Out here, I was a solitary ship, my diesel engine a rhythmic pulse against the silence. But tonight, the familiar hum of tires on asphalt felt different, heavier, like the prelude to a storm. And tonight, under this oppressive sky, I know I'm not alone. The CB radio crackles to life, a brief interruption in the symphony of the engine. Breaker 19, this is Big Rig Bandit. Anyone catching that weird light show over by mile marker 137? Over. Each passing mile marker feels like a countdown, a steady march towards the unknown. We are the modern-day knights errant. Our steeds of chrome and steel. We navigate treacherous mountain passes and desolate plains, our only companions the rhythmic hum of the engine and the ghostly glow of the dashboard. There's a certain camaraderie among truckers, a bond forged in shared experience and mutual understanding. But even the toughest trucker has a story that makes the hair on their neck stand on end. Tonight, the road feels different. I've always scoffed at ghost stories, dismissing them as the ramblings of tired minds. But tonight, as I drive deeper into the heart of darkness, I find myself questioning everything I thought I knew. The shadows seem to hold their breath, watching me with unseen eyes. The fear is a living thing now, slithering through my veins like ice water. I glance at my reflection in the rearview mirror, searching for any sign of weakness in my own eyes. And I can't help but feel like I'm driving headlong into the gaping maw of one of those stories right now. The biting wind howled like a banshee as I pulled into the deserted rest stop, its neon sign flickering a pale, sickly yellow against the encroaching darkness. Just a quick nap, I told myself, ignoring the prickling unease that had settled over me the moment I'd seen the lone figure huddled beneath the awning by the restrooms. "Get in, son," I finally muttered, rolling down the window just enough to be heard over the wind. He didn't speak, just nodded curtly, his head still bowed, and slid into the passenger seat. The air inside the cab instantly felt colder, heavier, the faint scent of damp earth clinging to him like a shroud. Something wasn't right. I caught a flash of movement out of the corner of my eye, a flicker in the rearview mirror that sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. "You see that?" I asked, my voice tight, hoping for a rational explanation, for confirmation that I wasn't losing my mind. The kid didn't move, didn't even seem to acknowledge my words. The shadows in the cab seemed to deepen, to dance in the periphery of my vision, and the hair on the back of my neck stood on end. Every instinct screamed at me to pull over, to kick the kid out and drive until the rising sun chased away the shadows of the night. But something held me back. The rain finally began to ease as we approached a small town, its lights a welcome beacon in the darkness. "There's a diner up ahead," I said, my voice raspy from hours of silence. "How about a burger and some coffee?" The kid finally looked up, his face emerging from beneath the shadow of his cap for the first time. His features were gaunt, almost skeletal, his skin pale and clammy. But it was his eyes that sent a shiver down my spine. The kid was gone. I sat there for a moment, heart hammering against my ribs, trying to rationalize what I had seen, what I hadn't seen. The CB radio crackled to life, breaking the silence with a jolt. "Breaker 19, this is Big Rig Bandit. You still out there, buddy? Say, you ever pick up any strange hitchhikers out here? Heard some stories on the grapevine? Folks talking about a phantom hitchhiker, vanishes without a trace. But the words died in my throat. Just gotta be careful out there. 1-9, the voice continued, oblivious to the turmoil raging within me. Never know what you might find on these lonely roads. I pulled into the diner parking lot, the neon sign casting an eerie glow on the rain-slicked asphalt. The warmth of the diner, the chatter of late-night patrons, did little to ease the chill that had settled deep within my bones. The thought filled me with a sense of foreboding, a premonition that the night was far from over. The low hum of the tires against the asphalt was a familiar lullaby, a constant companion on my solitary journeys across the vast expanse of America. The highway unfurled before me like an endless black ribbon, swallowed by the vast emptiness of the Nevada desert. The air inside the cab was thick with the silence of solitude, broken only by the occasional crackle of the CB radio and the drone of the engine. A wave of static erupted from the CB, momentarily breaking the trance-like state I'd fallen into. Breaker 19. This is Road Warrior. Tales of phantom hitchhikers, restless spirits seeking passage, their presence a chilling reminder of the fragility of life on the open road. Mile marker 47 flashed by. I peered through the windshield, scanning the desolate landscape. The highway stretched endlessly before me, bathed in the ethereal glow of a full moon. The only sign of life was the occasional tumbleweed caught in the headlights of my rig, ghostly apparitions dancing across the asphalt before disappearing into the darkness. Then I saw her, a lone figure standing by the side of the road, silhouetted against the moonlit sky. A young woman, her long hair billowing in the wind like a tattered black flag. She wore a long, flowing dress, its white fabric almost glowing in the darkness. She was facing away from me, her head tilted slightly as if listening for something, or someone. I slowed down, my foot hovering over the brake pedal. Hesitation warred with a strange sense of obligation. It wasn't unusual to see people stranded on this stretch of highway, but there was something about the way she stood, motionless and solitary, that sent a shiver down my spine. I stole another glance at the rearview mirror, my gaze drawn to her reflection. For a fleeting moment, I thought I saw a flicker of movement in the reflection, a subtle shift in her posture that suggested she was now facing me, her eyes fixed on the truck. My breath caught in my throat, my pulse quickening. I blinked, and the image was gone. Breaker 19, you copy? You see her? The voice on the CB crackled again. Yeah, Road Warrior, this is 19. I think I see her, just up ahead on the right. Be careful, friend, something ain't right about that one. Keep your eyes peeled. I gripped the steering wheel. The closer I got, the more uneasy I felt. The woman remained motionless. I slowed the truck, rolling down the window. You okay, ma'am? Need some help? She didn't respond. I hesitated. I should just keep going. It's none of my business, but something urged me to check on her. I put the truck in park. As I stepped out, a gust of wind whipped at my clothes. I approached cautiously. Ma'am, can you hear me? But something stopped me. The air grew heavy, and then she was gone. One moment she was standing there, a solitary figure bathed in moonlight. The next she had vanished without a trace. I spun around, my heart pounding in my chest, scanning the desolate landscape for any sign of movement. But there was nothing. Just the endless highway stretching out before me, swallowed by the darkness. I returned to my truck, my mind racing. Had I imagined the whole thing, a trick of the light, A figment of my sleep-deprived mind? Or was there something more to it? Something sinister lurking beneath the surface of the mundane? The silence inside the cab was deafening. I reached for the CB, needing to hear another voice, to ground myself in reality. "Road Warrior, this is 19, I said, my voice trembling slightly. "She's gone. 1 minute she was there, the next, nothing." A long silence followed, broken only by the static hiss of the radio. Then, Road Warrior's voice, low and grave, filled the cab. "You're not the first one to say that, friend. And you won't be the last. They say this highway's haunted, that she's looking for a ride, a way out of this desolate place. But be warned, driver. Some rides, they lead to nowhere good." His words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. I wanted to dismiss them as superstitious nonsense, the ramblings of a lonely trucker. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right, that I had stumbled into something ancient and unknowable, something that defied logic and explanation. I spent the night driving, desperate to outrun the memory of the vanishing woman and Road Warrior's words. Her image, glowing in the moonlight, remained seared into my mind. I pulled into a truck stop outside Flagstaff as the sun rose. Exhausted, sleep was impossible. Her face, filled with sadness and longing, haunted me. I tried to dismiss it as a hallucination, but deep down, I felt it was something truly unsettling. The diner was mostly empty. I ordered coffee and stared blankly at the table. The waitress refilled my cup without a word. "Long night?" she asked. I nodded. She leaned in, eyes twinkling with recognition. "Hear you talking about that hitchhiker on the CB?" she said. "She's a legend around these parts. Some say she's the ghost of a young bride who died in a car crash. Others say she's just a lost soul searching for her way home." Her words sent a chill down my spine. I had hoped to find solace in the warmth of the diner, in the company of other human beings. But it seemed the memory of that night, of the vanishing woman, had followed me, weaving its way into the fabric of reality. I spent the next few days trying to forget, to convince myself it was all in my head. But the experience had shaken me, left me with a lingering sense of unease. A feeling that the line between the real and the unreal was far more permeable than I had ever imagined. I tried to put it behind me, to focus on the road, the rhythm of the engine, the familiar comfort of my solitary existence. But the highway, once a source of solace and freedom, now seemed different, darker, filled with unseen shadows and whispered secrets. And sometimes, late at night, when the wind howled outside my cab and the only sound was the low hum of tires against the asphalt, I would catch a glimpse of movement in my rearview mirror, a fleeting image of a young woman in a white dress, her face obscured by the darkness, her eyes fixed on me with a mixture of sadness and longing that sent shivers down my spine. I knew then that I would never forget that night, that the memory of the vanishing hitchhiker would forever haunt me, a chilling reminder that on the open road, some journeys lead us to places we never expected, and some encounters stay with us long after we've reached our destination. The biting wind whistled through the gaps in my truck's door seal, a mournful sound that echoed the desolate landscape outside. The New Mexico sun dipped below the horizon, leaving behind a sky painted in hues of bruised purple and blood orange. I was running behind schedule, my logbook a testament to my eagerness to reach my destination. But sometimes, the road has other plans. The flashing detour sign appeared like a beacon in the gathering darkness. A detour on this desolate stretch of two-lane blacktop. My gut churned with unease. I had heard stories, whispers from fellow truckers, of this particular stretch of road. Tales of disappearances, of strange occurrences that left even the most seasoned drivers shaken. But deadlines, like the setting sun, wait for no man. I cursed under my breath, the taste of stale coffee bitter on my tongue. The detour sign offered no explanation, no hint of what lay ahead. Just a stark arrow pointing towards the unknown, a road less traveled that seemed to beckon me with an unsettling allure. The logical part of my brain screamed at me to turn back, to find another route, to avoid tempting fate on this lonely stretch of forgotten asphalt. But something, perhaps the fatigue gnawing at my resolve, perhaps a morbid curiosity urged me forward. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white in the fading light, and took a deep breath. The air hung heavy with the smell of dust and creosote, a scent that spoke of long-forgotten journeys and secrets buried beneath the unforgiving desert soil. As I steered my rig onto the detour, the tires crunching on the loose gravel, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was crossing a threshold, venturing into a place where the rules of the known world no longer applied. The detour snaked its way through a labyrinth of canyons and arroyos, the asphalt cracked and broken in places, as if ravaged by some unseen force. The further I drove, the more oppressive the silence became. The usual nighttime symphony of insects and distant traffic was replaced by an unnerving stillness, a silence so profound that I could hear the blood pounding in my ears. My headlights, twin beams cutting through the darkness, illuminated a scene that sent a shiver down my spine. A vehicle rested on the side of the road, its once bright paint now faded and peeling under the relentless desert sun. It was an old sedan, a relic from a bygone era, its windows opaque with dust, its tires half buried in the sandy soil. A chill, sharper than the desert night, raced down my spine. I slowed the truck, my gaze drawn to the silent vehicle as if by some magnetic pull. The cab of the sedan was shrouded in shadow, but as I got closer, a glint of something metallic caught my eye. It was a child's toy, a small, red truck lying on the dashboard. The sight of it, a stark reminder of innocence in this desolate landscape, sent a wave of unease washing over me. What had happened here? Who had left this vehicle to be swallowed by the desert? My hand hovered over the CB radio, a lifeline to the outside world. I should report this, I thought. Contact the authorities. But a strange reluctance held me back. What if I was wrong? What if this was just an abandoned vehicle left to rust in peace? Interfering felt like an intrusion, a violation of something sacred and unknown. I cautiously stepped out of my truck, the silence pressing in on me, amplifying every crunch of my boots on the gravel. The air was thick with dust and a faint metallic tang. I approached the sedan slowly, flashlight in hand. The driver's side window was partially rolled down. Dust covered everything inside. The front seats were empty, but the back seat held a suitcase. A small leather suitcase with a faded blue ribbon. A cold dread settled in my stomach. This wasn't just an abandoned vehicle. The desert wind howled around me. I felt a sudden urge to leave, but something held me rooted to the spot. My hand trembled as I reached for the suitcase, its leather cool beneath my touch. The blue ribbon seemed to pulse with life. I hesitated, afraid of what I might find inside. What secrets did this small suitcase hold? The latch clicked open, echoing through the desert. A child's drawing depicted a smiling family. At the bottom, a small leather-bound diary. The entries grew frantic, filled with fear. "We're lost," it read, "running out of water." The entry ended abruptly, leaving me uneasy. Section 5. No escape. The wind howled around me, a mournful symphony that seemed to echo the despair in those final frantic words. The desert, once a place of stark beauty, now felt oppressive, its silence a suffocating weight on my chest. I had stumbled into a tragedy, a story of loss and desperation that played out under the unforgiving desert sun, and I couldn't escape the feeling that I was now inextricably linked to it. I carefully placed the diary back in the suitcase, my hands shaking as I retied the blue ribbon. The setting sun cast long, eerie shadows across the landscape, transforming the abandoned sedan into a skeletal silhouette against the dying light. I needed to leave, to put distance between myself and this place, but my feet felt rooted to the spot. As I turned to go, a flash of movement in the rearview mirror caught my eye. My heart leaped into my throat, my breath catching in my chest. For a fleeting moment, I could have sworn I saw a figure standing by the side of the road, a shadowy silhouette that seemed to shimmer and distort in the fading light. It was a woman, her form tall and slender, her long hair billowing in the wind like a tattered black flag. And she was staring directly at me, her eyes burning with an intensity that sent a wave of primal fear coursing through me. I blinked, and the figure was gone. Had I imagined it? A trick of the light? A figment of my guilt-ridden imagination? Or was it something more? A lingering echo of the tragedy that had unfolded on this desolate stretch of highway? I didn't wait to find out. I practically threw myself into the cab of my truck, my hands shaking as I fumbled with the keys. The engine roared to life, a welcome sound that broke the oppressive silence of the desert. I didn't look back as I pulled away, my foot heavy on the accelerator, my heart pounding against my ribs. The sun had vanished below the horizon by the time I rejoined the main highway, leaving behind a sky painted in hues of deep indigo and blood orange. The familiar rhythm of the road, the distant hum of traffic, did little to ease the unease that had settled deep within me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone, that something from that abandoned car, something unseen and unknowable, had followed me. The miles ticked by, each one a desperate attempt to outrun the memory of the suitcase, the diary, the whispers of the lost family. But every time I glanced in the rearview mirror, I couldn't shake the feeling that a pair of eyes, filled with a mixture of sadness and accusation, watched me from the shadows. And in the silence of my solitary journey, I could almost hear a voice, faint and mournful, whispering my name. The air crackled with anticipation as I keyed the mic, my voice a low rumble in the darkness of the cab. Breaker 19. This is Renegade rolling through the heart of Texas. Anyone else catching a bad vibe on Old Highway 87 tonight? Over. Static hissed in response, the silence amplifying the tension that had been building in my gut since I'd crossed the state line. Highway 87, the devil's backbone, some called it. A notorious stretch of asphalt that snaked its way through the desolate heart of Texas, a place where the veil between the living and the dead seemed to thin to a whisper. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white in the ghostly glow of the dashboard. The headlights cut twin beams through the darkness, illuminating a seemingly endless ribbon of blacktop that disappeared into the abyss of the night. The air hung heavy with humidity, thick enough to choke on, and the only sounds were the low rumble of the engine and the mournful cry of a distant coyote. I'd heard the stories, whispered in hushed tones at truck stops and rest areas, tales that painted a chilling portrait of this stretch of highway. Stories of phantom hitchhikers, their faces obscured by shadows, their voices a mournful echo in the dead of night. Stories of spectral lights that danced on the horizon, luring unsuspecting travelers to their doom. Stories that sent shivers down the spines of even the most hardened truckers. Tonight, driving through the heart of this infamous stretch, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that I was an actor in a play where the script had yet to be written, but the ending promised to be anything but happy. The wind picked up, whipping across the cab of my truck, carrying with it the faint scent of rain and something else, something ancient and unsettling. The hair on the back of my neck stood on end, and I found myself constantly checking my mirrors, searching the darkness for any sign of movement. Breaker 19, you got your ears on? This is Big Sky, over. A voice, deep and gravelly, crackled through the CB, momentarily breaking the oppressive silence. Big Sky, this is Renegade, loud and clear. You catching that weird wind too? Feels like something's moving out there. Over. Copy that, Renegade. Wind's been picking up all night, howling like a banshee. Heard tell that's how she warns you. Over. She? Yeah, the lady in white. Some say she's the ghost of a young woman killed on this highway years ago, looking for her lost love. Others say she's something else entirely, something old and hungry. Either way, you don't want to cross her path. Over. The silence stretched, thick and heavy with unspoken meaning. I glanced at the clock on the dashboard. Almost midnight. The witching hour. The first light appeared on the horizon, a faint, ethereal glow that seemed to pulse and shimmer against the dark canvas of the night sky. I rubbed my eyes, trying to focus, but the light remained, a small, dancing orb that seemed to beckon me closer. Big Sky, you seeing that? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Seeing what, Renegade? Light, up ahead, on the horizon. Static hissed in response. You're seeing things, friend. Must be the fatigue talking. There ain't nothing out there but darkness and dust. But I knew what I had seen, and as I drove, the light grew brighter, multiplying until there were dozens of them, dancing and swirling like fireflies in the distance. They were an eerie, mesmerizing spectacle, and I felt an almost hypnotic pull towards them. Big Sky, I gotta pull over for a bit, I said, my voice strained. My eyes are playing tricks on me. You sure you're okay, Renegade? Don't like the sound of this? Yeah, I'm good. Just need a break. Be back on the road soon. But as I steered the truck towards the shoulder, the lights began to move, shifting and coalescing until they formed a single blinding orb that hovered directly in front of my truck. I slammed on the brakes, the truck skidding to a halt, the smell of burning rubber filling the cab. The light, now blindingly bright, pulsed and throbbed in front of me, casting grotesque shadows that danced and writhed across the dashboard. I shielded my eyes, my heart pounding against my ribs, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. And then, just as abruptly as it had appeared, the light vanished. The darkness that followed was absolute, suffocating. I fumbled for the overhead light, bathing the cab in a sickly yellow glow. My hands were shaking, my skin clammy with a cold sweat. What the hell had that been? A low growl, deep and guttural, emanated from somewhere outside the truck, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps circling my rig. Terror, primal and instinctive, surged through me. I was trapped, hunted by something I couldn't see, something that seemed to exist only in the shadows, feeding on my fear. The footsteps grew louder, closer, until they stopped right outside my door. I could hear breathing now, ragged and uneven, just beyond the thin metal that separated me from whatever lurked in the darkness. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white, my body tense with fear. The air inside the cab crackled with static electricity, and I could smell ozone, the sharp tang of lightning. The door handle rattled, a metallic shriek that sent a fresh wave of terror through me. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing myself for the inevitable, but the attack never came. The footsteps resumed, slower now, heavier, as if whatever had been stalking me was moving away. I held my breath, listening intently, but the only sounds were the pounding of my own heart and the mournful cry of the wind. Minutes ticked by, each one an eternity. Finally, unable to stand the suspense any longer, I slowly opened my eyes. The darkness outside the truck seemed to press in on me, suffocating and alive. I fumbled for my flashlight, its beam a weak beacon in the overwhelming blackness. I scanned the immediate area, my heart pounding in my chest, but there was nothing. No sign of whatever had been stalking me. No explanation for the lights, the growls, the footsteps. Only the endless ribbon of highway stretched before me, swallowed by the darkness. The door handle rattled again, a sound like skeletal fingers scraping against metal. I flinched back, a scream dying in my throat. The air inside the cab crackled with an unseen energy, and the hair on the back of my neck stood on end. My hand trembled as I reached for the door handle, my mind screaming at me to run, to get as far away from this place as possible. But a strange sense of compulsion, a morbid curiosity, rooted me to the spot. I had to see, had to know what lurked on the other side of that thin metal barrier. Taking a deep breath, I threw open the door and stumbled out into the night. The flashlight beam danced wildly in my trembling hand, casting grotesque shadows that seemed to writhe and contort with a life of their own. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and damp earth, and the silence was almost as unnerving as the growls that had preceded it. I sat there, trembling with adrenaline, my mind racing. Had I imagined it all, or was there something sinister lurking in the shadows of Highway 87? I took a deep breath and started the engine. The familiar rumble was comforting. The headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the road ahead. The memory of that night lingered, a chilling reminder of the unknown. The highway had whispered its secrets, and I would never be truly free of them. The glow of the diner sign, a beacon of warmth and humanity, fades in my rearview mirror. Another cup of coffee, another slice of pie, another round of stories shared with weary travelers who understand the language of the road. But tonight, the usual comfort of routine feels different. The stories linger, their edges sharper, their shadows longer. The weight of countless miles and countless encounters with the unknown settles on my shoulders like a physical burden. Out here, on the asphalt arteries of America, we are more than just drivers. We are witnesses to the hidden corners of this land, the places where reality blurs and legends are born. We've seen the sun rise over mountains that pierce the heavens and set over deserts that stretch to infinity. We felt the freedom of the open road and the crushing weight of solitude. We've stared into the abyss of the night and seen things that defy explanation, things that make us question our sanity and the very nature of the world around us. The road remembers, they say. It holds on to the echoes of every tire that has traveled its length, every story whispered in the darkness, every scream lost to the wind. And sometimes, on nights like this, when the moon hangs low and the shadows dance, it whispers those stories back to us, reminding us that we are not alone, that there are things in this world that exist just beyond the reach of our understanding. I climb back into the cab of my rig, the familiar smells of diesel and leather a strange comfort in the face of the unknown. The engine roars to life, a mechanical heartbeat against the silence of the night. Ahead of me, the highway stretches into the darkness, a black ribbon beckoning me forward. The road is calling and I must answer. The stories we've shared are more than just ghost stories. They are testaments to the power of the human spirit. The road goes on, and so do we. Keep on truckin', drivers.